If you do not like someone's story, write your own. Changing Narratives with Wambui Kabage.
Hi everyone, this is Wambui. I'd like to talk about what I've learned regarding divorce. So here's the thing, as somebody who has facilitated a lot of divorces in my life, but also a person who has also been divorced myself, I have a few things to say about it. And part of it is just really recognizing that at the end of the day, this life is such that not everybody's in your life to stay forever. That's a reality, right? You have friends that come and go in your lives as you've grown up. You've seen that, right? That's the same with relationships. Sometimes they last and sometimes they don't. The only thing about marriage is that sometimes there is a bit of a permanency that comes with it. And that permanency usually comes in terms of children. Right? So if you're married and you have children as a result of that marriage and then you get divorced, that creates an interesting situation because divorce suggests that you have ended the relationship, you don't want anything to do with this person, and therefore you should technically have the right to walk away as you will, when you will, and really not look back. Unfortunately, that is not the case if you have children. The reality is, as long as you have children with somebody, you are intricately connected to that person till the day either you die or they die or your children die. And that sounds really morbid, but that's the reality. The truth is, you have two choices. You can deal with this maturely or immaturely. And that sounds kind of harsh, but it's true. Maturely is recognizing that you have to live with that reality. You can't be an ostrich. You have to have this human being in your life at some level. There are exceptions, and the exceptions are if that person happens to be abusive or a danger to either yourself or your child. If you don't fall into that category, then I'm sorry. This relationship is permanent and this engagement is permanent. And so like I said, you have the choice. You deal with it immaturely or maturely. Now, immaturely has consequences. The consequences are not only to yourself, but to your child and or children, right? And what I mean by that is you like it, you don't like it, your children will always have inalienable rights to both of you, meaning that child has a right to have access to you and their biological parent, whether that's the father or the mother. And that can play out in many ways. It can play out in access, custody, or any other way that you want to talk about. But mainly those are the two areas that it plays out in. And if you're going to be immature about that, then you're going to traumatize your children and yourself. Because let me tell you, as you think you're punishing the other person, you're actually punishing yourself. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you think you're going to play the game of deprivation of one simply because your relationship didn't work and you feel you want to blame the other person, then I can tell you, you're going down a really horrible, slippery slope. Because that child or children are going to eventually take sides. You don't want that. And I'll tell you why you don't want that. Because that side is more often than not yours. So, you have a choice. You can cultivate a healthy separation and or divorce, right? Have your children recognize that yes, relationships sometimes work, relationships sometimes don't work, but that doesn't mean life ends. Life can continue. Life can continue in a very healthy way. There just needs to be boundaries. There just needs to be rules, and that needs to be a mature and emotionally mature way of handling things. Okay? And I'm not talking about theory, I'm talking about reality, where you realize that your children are going to have to access that person, right? The other person that you divorced for whatever reason, right? And so you're going to have to drive your child to that person or take your child to that person in whichever mode of transportation that you're able to, right? What does that mean? Are you going to fura, take the person, take the child, and just like permanently? If you divorce the parent 5 years, when your child was 5 years, right? Are you just going to fura for the next, I don't know, call it 16, 17 years? It's not practical, okay? So let's begin. Let's have a game plan from the beginning. I am going to be mature about this. Why? Because then you reduce the pain, the stress, and the frustration as you're co-parenting. Because guess what? You're going to have to co-parent. You're going to have to make decisions like, what school is this child going to go? What university is this child going to go? Who's going to pay for these things? You're going to have holidays that are separate. Who's going to go on which holiday? What holiday? How? Where? Who's going to pay for the uniform? Who's going to pay for clothes for the holiday? Right? And if you can't even look at each other in the face, you can't pick up a call and say, hey, listen, this needs to be done. It's just going to mess everything up, right? So from the beginning, my advice to those who have been divorced is make a decision to be emotionally mature about this process. I'm not saying be the best of buddies with your ex-spouse. I'm simply saying be mature about it. And for me, I found that has been very helpful. And let me tell you another thing. When you alienate your child, and when you talk about the reason that you got divorced to your children, don't think for 1 minute that what you're doing is getting your children on your side. What you're doing is showing your children that it is possible for one person to play another person against another. You're teaching your children how to manipulate, right? And they're going to manipulate you. So, do not tell your children about what is transpiring regarding divorce. Be mature about it. Tell them that people divorce, people live together, they separate. And for crying out loud, make a decision to be emotionally mature about this whole process. Good luck, guys. It's not easy, but it's doable. All the best. Take care. Like, share, and subscribe.